Ah! This damn microphone. Welcome to Normal America Show. Host Rob Noor. No, Noor is not Australian. I'm American. Oh my goodness. Anyways, there we go. Same old stuff. Same old stuff. Rob, you got this new mic. If you bump it, then it mutes. So, anyways, here we are. Short stream today, mainly doing this to test out my camera. Does it look a little better than previously? Is the color a little off? I was talking to my editor last night about it. I don't know if you all know this, but I'm colorblind. So, I mean, I could see colors, but I have a lot of trouble. I don't know what expressive type of colorblindness I am. Um, so I think that live on air light is screwing with the camera a little. I think I've narrowed it down to that. I still don't think I've perfected it, but hopefully this is a little better than yesterday. That's one. Secondly, I don't know what the hell is going on between my OBS and Restream. It is totally screwing up every channel I have except YouTube. Seeing as how I pay like $30 a month for Restream, if it's only going to let me stream basically to YouTube, then I'm pissing my money away. And so I'm thinking that I'm going to switch up to StreamYard and see what I could do there. But I figured while I was coming on, testing that stuff, which was a failure, it's still failing here. It's screwing up my X account, my Rumble account, and my Kick account as we speak. So I don't know. But I figured I would do a slight stream on one of the narratives that I see being pushed by people, that the reason that the negotiations yesterday fell through was because Vance and Trump are crybabies that wanted to thank you. And clearly Zelensky said thank you many times. And so I figured, since I'm coming on to test this out, we'll talk about this narrative. First person that I see that's sort of guilty of this sort of rhetoric is Sitch from Adam and Sitch's show, or Sitch and Adam show, whatever the hell it is. Sitch puts out this post where he's basically like, oh, Vance was, Zelensky just made a normal observation and Vance was crying about it and blah, blah, blah. And when I pointed out that framing's wrong, as we talked about yesterday, that actually what happened was you have an antagonistic press that at the end of this, where everything was pretty swimmingly, asked Trump basically, why don't you criticize Putin more? Why don't you just straight up say that Putin's terrible and you're aligned with Ukraine? And Trump's making the obvious point, look, if we're trying to enter negotiations as a neutral party, we're trying to be hospitable to both sides so that we can have a productive conversation, because the most important thing is having a peaceful resolution to this. And then Vance chimes in and says, and the last guy said all sorts of bad things about Putin, but that didn't really do anything, did it? Actions matter, not words. So it doesn't matter if we're here saying Putin's evil, Putin's the worst, he's terrible. Like, that doesn't accomplish anything. We're trying to have a diplomatic solution. That's it. And it seems that Sitch is implying like, well, these were lies that could not be abided by. Or if not lies, a statement that could not be abided by Zelensky. Well, why not? What was said there that couldn't be abided by? Let's try to take as much as our biases out as possible and say this. There are two parties at war right now. Let's even steelman the position and say Russia is objectively wrong, which I think that Russia is wrong for invading. So let's start with that as our framework. Russia's wrong for invading, and there's two sides at war. Can we admit that both of those sides are going to want completely different things? Now, this is true of any negotiation. If you're talking about a business merger, both sides are going to want things. If you're talking about you going to the store and you want to buy a car, the car dealer wants to sell you this car and they want to get as much money as possible. They want to make as much profit as possible. The person purchasing the vehicle wants to get the best vehicle possible for the smallest amount of money. So in that scenario of a negotiation, yes, of course, one side, if the side says, the person purchasing the car says, I want that car for $1,000, and the person selling the car says, I want to sell you this car for $20,000, a suggestion of a third party going, well, why don't you sell it for $5,000? Yes, the person who wants it for $1,000 probably is like, yeah, I don't like that. That's not everything I wanted. That's true. In this scenario, yes, Zelensky wants more than what is being offered. Does anyone doubt that if the United States said, you know what, Zelensky, why don't you just sit back on this yacht and we're personally flying to Russia with Marines right now to take out that prick Putin? Do you think Zelensky would say, no? He'd be like, great, the more the better. Zelensky, for better or worse, you could agree with this or disagree with it, he wants Putin wiped out. He wants Russia neutered to the point where they'll never be able to invade Ukraine again. That's what he wants. If he doesn't get that, he's going to say, we didn't get everything we want. What's Russia want? All sorts of things. Russia wants a guarantee like they have for years that NATO will stop expanding closer to their country. They want Western nations to stop interfering in countries around the border of them. They want to keep some of the land that they've obtained. They want Russian-speaking people in Ukraine probably to be part of Russia. You might say, those goals are shit. That's terrible. That's evil. Maybe so. But that's what Russia wants. They may want the entirety of Ukraine. A third party coming in and attempting to be neutral as best as possible, they're going to want different things as well. What does the United States want? What does Trump want? Because the United States, what do they want? Well, I guess it depends on who you're asking. But what's the Trump administration want? They want a deal that's good for the American people, and they want a ceasefire and the war to end. Those are their priorities, first and foremost. Their priorities aren't, we want Zelensky to get everything he wants, or we want Putin to get everything he wants. Their priorities are, we want America to benefit, and we want you two to come to a deal. And we're going to try to make that deal happen. That's the position that Trump and Vance are coming from. Does anyone disagree with that? I don't think anything I said there was controversial, correct? Ukraine wants Russia to never be able to invade them again. They would prefer Putin to be out of leadership. Part of those goals will probably mean things like they want assurance, they want to be in NATO. They want military assurances that no one will ever attack them again. Russia wants assurances that the West will stop encroaching on what they see as encroaching on. They want to keep the land that they've won under this war. Yeah, Trump administration wants a deal that helps the American people and that ends the war as quickly as possible. I don't know that anyone would disagree with this. You probably have a preference. If you're someone with a big heart for Ukraine, your argument's probably, I want more what Ukraine wants. And that means as Americans, we shouldn't be looking for a deal that benefits us the most. Because I think what benefits us the most would actually be stopping Russia right now. Or if you're someone that thinks Zelensky's a dictator, you might say, I don't give a shit what Zelensky wants. I think he's horrible. He's a dictator. Or if you're me, you agree with the Trump administration approach. I want the United States to not be involved with it. I want what's best for the United States. I'm tired of financing all of these wars around the world. Okay, that's the stakes. That's where everyone's at. The problem is Zelensky is negotiating from a position of weakness. He is losing the war. He does not have anything to offer the United States. Really. Sorry, my camera's vibrating because the washing machine's running right below us. I'm not going through an earthquake. Now, formally, there's an argument that, like, well, what they have to offer is the Lindsey Graham approach. Well, they could send their men to die in perpetuity to hamstring Russia. Okay, I don't think Zelensky wants that. That's basically my argument as well, American Nacho. So when you're negotiating from a position of you're the weaker party, you have to suffer not getting everything you want. That's just the way it is. That's it. That's human nature. But that's not fair. Russia's the evil bad person. Maybe, but that's human nature. Every war that has ever ended with a negotiated peace had the side that was on the losing end not get everything they wanted. Everywhere. That's what happens. So in this case, in order to be in a better bargaining position with Russia, Ukraine is reliant on the Western world. But they also have to negotiate with the Western world. Trump is saying, listen, what's his top priority? What's best for the American people? He thinks that sending billions of dollars to Ukraine with no promise of any of that money being returned is a bad deal for the American people. I agree. Personally, I would say don't bother with the deal and just say, yeah, we're coming home. We're not going to send any more money. That was my preference. But I understand the strategic nature of what Trump's trying to do, as I'll get to in a minute. That's his position, though. I want America to gain something from this. I want my people to gain something. It's his whole shtick. That's what the Doge shtick is. We are wasting money. That's why he was elected. America first. We're tired of our leaders prioritizing people around the world, whether it be illegal immigrants, whether it be people in Ukraine, whether it be people in Israel, whether it be people in Europe. American people elected a president to be American first. So inconsistent with that ideology, he's like, what can you do for America? You need our help right now? Trump's holding all the cards. So what can you do for us, Zelensky? That might piss you off. If you're someone who's like, no, we have to help Zelensky at all costs. It doesn't matter if it costs the Americans money. That's fine. You have every right to be pissed off. But it is clear that that's what Trump's negotiating position is. Trump also has the negotiating position of, as a businessman, and you may disagree with this, I happen to think this is probably a reasonable idea, that one of the best ways to ensure that there's not conflict is to ensure that there are business relationships. So, for example, in his talks with Russia, they're talking about having a deal for the United States to buy loads of aluminum from Russia. It'll benefit the American people, it'll benefit Russia, and therefore it'll give a better bargaining chip if both sides benefit from that, to have neither side intentionally sabotage that by declaring war against an ally, etc. Same idea that Trump's trying to do with this mineral deal. If we have a mineral deal with Ukraine, we have a business transaction, more likely to have an amicable relationship, and further, it makes security guarantees easier to negotiate in the future because we could say, well, that minerals are sort of half our property and are our rights, and so now it's not Russia attacking Ukraine, it's Russia attacking our interest. Again, I don't particularly like that part of the negotiation tactic, but that's what Trump's doing. That's what he's trying to do. He also understands that if he's trying to negotiate an end to the war immediately, that probably means that the side that's winning right now, that you're going to have to ask, okay, man, you're winning, but we need you to stop. We need you to come to some sort of agreement. You're probably not antagonizing them. That's totally true, Austin Graham. Part of the negotiation could have been Trump says to Putin, look, we have these mineral rights now. So we're going to station a base here to protect these minerals. Putin may have said, kiss my ass, no. But that could have been part of the deal. Again, a deal I wouldn't have liked. That's it, though. That's what's going on. That sets the stage for what's going on. Now, oftentimes in these negotiations behind the scenes, like all negotiations, there's going to be disagreements. Use another analogy. You're a fantastic professional football player, like let's say Lamar Jackson. Fantastic quarterbacks, won MVPs. Could very well have won the MVP this year again, but didn't. His contract comes up a couple years ago. Behind the scenes, his people and the Baltimore Ravens people, they're going to be making all kinds of claims. Well, we think our guy's worth more than what you're offering. We're going to walk if we don't get at least this. And the other side says, no, here's why. Here's what we're looking at. You don't go public with that shit. You don't agree with a deal and then say, actually, I'm going to go public and air this dirty laundry. You hash all of that out behind the scenes. Now, that's a stupid, silly sports situation. We're talking about a war. We're talking about millions dying. Zelensky has every right to raise and I mean this from the bottom of my heart. I don't like Zelensky at all. I have a lot of problems. But he has every right to raise every damn objection that he wants. He had every right to say, this mineral deal sucks ass. No. He had every right to say, you know what? I'm only going to sign this mineral deal as long as we get a security guarantee, as long as Russia agrees that they're going to pay us back, they're going to do this. He has every right to say that. It might be stupid, but he has the right. That's not being rude or offensive to America. But what's stupid on his part is to behind the scenes, apparently this is what happened. This mineral deal was offered 3 times. Scott Bissonnette was there and offered it. They was like, no. There was another opportunity that was offered. It's like, no. He wanted to come talk to Trump personally. Okay. So, attempt 3. And apparently, I haven't heard anything to the counter. He agreed to this mineral deal behind the scenes. Now, my guess is this is how the negotiation went. Again, anyone who thinks I'm wrong, tell me that you think I'm wrong. My guess is that Trump probably said something like this. Let's hammer out this mineral deal. This is going to be good for both parties. We think it'll be good. America is going to get something back. And this will allow us to continue giving you weapons and putting you in a better position. Ultimately, our goal is to get to a point where we can negotiate a ceasefire that's as best as possible for Ukraine. Now, the reason I believe that's most likely what's said is if you watch the entire interaction, not just the 10 minutes at the end where the blow-up happens, if you watch the entire interaction, Trump says, yeah, this will help us send weapons. This is what he's saying. It'll help us continue to work with Ukraine, send them money, send them weapons. This is ultimately what this deal's about. In this one perspective, what's happening is, yes, Zelensky wants way more. There's going to be more negotiations on more things to come. But this right here, what does Zelensky immediately need? A guarantee for the United States that they're going to keep the money faucet on. By the way, something I disagree with. I'm not for that. We should stop sending the money immediately. But Zelensky's getting a verbal commitment from Trump for what he wants. Yep, this will allow us to continue to send this money and weapons. Super chat from Grassroots Hegemon. Great name, by the way. $50. It's not a matter of seeing the literal money come back. It's a matter of getting return on your investment. Russia is now and has always been a terrorist state in support of every terrorist dictatorship and the locus of control. Sure. But Trump doesn't see a guarantee in getting a return on investment. If the argument is we want Ukrainians to continue to fight and die because it hurts Russia and it's basically giving them their Vietnam, then say it like Lindsey Graham. But don't claim that it's some faux moral concern for the Ukrainian people. We want to bleed out Russia because they're a horrible terror state. Fine, say that. Are you going to send troops? No. Are you going to send enough money and munitions for Ukraine to actually take the fight to Russia? No. We're just going to continue to send them just enough to keep the meat grinder going. Yeah, it's okay to like Sports 42 Attack. That's what's occurring. So the deal's done, and then what happens? Press asks questions. I understand the Democrats don't understand this because they supported a human vegetable in Joe Biden that was incapable of taking questions from an adversarial press. I have no problem with the press being adversarial either. Fine. The question wasn't totally out of line. I think it's kind of dumb, but whatever. Hey, how come you're not just straight up saying you're aligning with Ukraine? Why are you saying some positive things about Putin? And Trump and Vance answer. They don't insult Zelensky. Trump's like, yeah, clearly Zelensky's going to say terrible shit about Putin. Putin's going to say bad shit about Zelensky. We're trying to get we want the war to end. That's what we're trying to do. And then Vance steps in and goes, and besides, the last guy, Joe Biden, he said a lot of bad things about Putin. How'd that work out? There was an invasion. That's it. Trump even says, last question. Now, again, the point of addressing this is the claim that Sitch and others were making is what's going to happen next is Zelensky just saying some truths very benignly, and then Vance crying and freaking out. You didn't say thank you. So here's what occurs. Last question. We're moving on to the question. Zelensky says, Can I ask you a question to the vice president? Sure, says the vice president, which is unusual. It's unusual. Okay, sure. And basically, Zelensky goes off and says, listen, Russia has promised before that they would not aggress, but they've lied every time. Now, this is debatable. You could say that. You could say, well, they were lied to initially when they were told NATO wouldn't expand in 1990. And then it proceeded to expand in 99, in 2003, in 2004, in 2009. Nonetheless, whatever, from Zelensky's perspective, I'm sure, fine, great, whatever. And a lot of people that think that Russia's super terrible terrorist state, always wrong. Yeah, okay, fine. But Zelensky, what he's really saying, and he gets to it at the end, is like, why do you think your plan will work? In other words, what he's saying, shrouded in the form of a question is, your plan won't work, it's stupid. Now remember, what he's saying this to the Trump administration. What's the Trump administration's goals again? Well, we already agreed. What's best for America, we may disagree on what that means, but that's the goal, and ending the war, getting a ceasefire. You may say, he only wants to do that because he campaigned on it in his ego. Maybe. Or you might say, he wants to do it because the loss of life is despicable. Whatever. That's what he wants. That's it. That's what he wants. And so there's several planks to his plan. Step 1, mineral deal. Step 2, negotiated ceasefire. Step 3, long-term negotiations to try to ensure that shit like this doesn't happen. That's it. And Zelensky basically says, after he agrees to step 1, by the way, steps 2 and 3 are bullshit and won't work. Publicly. Not privately, publicly. He even insults Vance by calling him JD. As opposed to Mr. Vice President. Vance then says, I think this is disrespectful. He says, basically coming here, this could have been said in private behind closed doors. You haven't even really thanked us in this meeting. Yes, part of what Vance is saying, they're like, you don't sound so grateful. For a guy whose entire country's existence and your position as its leader relies in totality on us right now, agreeing to help you, you don't sound very thankful. It sounds like you're entitled. It sounds like you feel we owe you something. And I can understand why Zelensky would approach it that way, because that's the way it was under the Biden administration. That's how Europe's treated the United States ever since the Obama administration. The United States, they'll spend all their money on defense and all the money on NATO. We won't meet our obligations. Hell, we may find out that Western intelligence were the people that orchestrated Joseph Mifsud, the Maltese professor that allegedly was a Russian spy that started the whole Russia collusion investigation against Trump. Yes, Vance had every right and actually a duty to say, excuse me, you're not coming into our home begging us for your existence and then being disrespectful. No, we're not going to have it. Zelensky had every opportunity to walk it back. Now, you might at this point say, well, Vance could have just let it go. He could have. He absolutely could have. But that's where the more important and second point that all the, it was just Vance and Trump crying that they wanted to hear thank you. The more important point is, what Zelensky's saying is, I'm not going to agree to the second and third parts of your negotiation. I'm not going to. Nope. It won't work. So nope. Unless you do X, Y, and Z, I'm not agreeing to a ceasefire. So now, what's the United States want? What's best for America and a ceasefire. So now if you're the United States and you're negotiating with Russia over here and with Ukraine over here, and Ukraine's telling you, no, there won't be a ceasefire unless you give us stuff that this party is unwilling to accept, that means that the United States goal, the Trump administration goal of a ceasefire, is kaput. Now, the United States, out of Ukraine, Russia, and the United States, is in the best negotiating position. One, we're not in the middle of a hot war. Ukraine is losing, and Ukrainian lives are dying to the point where they're conscripting young men, even older men, that are then dying. And Russia, although they're winning, is still hemorrhaging people. So the United States is in the best position of the three. What do they want? What's best for America in a ceasefire. Now they're being told by the person in the worst position, nope, we refuse to accept your terms. Publicly. Not privately in a negotiation, publicly. That's what they're doing. Trump's statement afterwards shows this. He says, listen, when Zelensky's ready to come back and have a serious conversation about peace, we're willing to have the conversation. Exactly. That's the big objection. Yes, they're right to feel disrespected, certainly. But the real hang-up is Zelensky is publicly saying, we're not going to accept the terms of this deal. We're not. So they're agreeing to portions of it behind the scenes, and then it's like, great, let's go out for a photo op, let's sign this, take some questions from the press, show everyone that we stand behind Ukraine. By the way, that'll help us vis-a-vis bargaining with Russia. See? We're shaking hands with Zelensky. We're entering a mineral deal with him, see? We're not going anywhere, Russia. So if you thought there was going to be a quick end to the war, you're wrong. I'm publicly saying we're going to give arms. Well, we'll talk about that Marvarossery in a second. I only have like probably 20 more minutes, so I got to be quick. I know I'm very wordy. That's what occurred. The "you didn't say thank you" is a fundamental criticism that Vance and Trump have with the way that U.S. policy has been conducted. That the rest of the world benefits from the working class of the United States, and they just feel entitled to it. That's the way it should be. Yep. Zelensky locks up an American for free speech who dies in prison. So, that's the way it should be. The Labour Party in the UK admitted they were financing people to come to the United States to campaign for Kamala Harris. Oh, well, that's the way it should be. Zelensky himself campaigned with the Democrats 2 weeks before the election in Pennsylvania. Oh, well, that's the way it's expected to be. Constant indignity after indignity. Tariffs on United States shit? So, that's the way it should be. Talk of reciprocal tariffs? How dare you? But the bigger problem is Zelensky is publicly saying, we're not going to agree to a peace deal. Now, Sitch's argument is, well, people are saying that Zelensky just wants perpetual war. I don't think that's true. Now, first off, the people that are saying that probably don't literally mean that, though I don't know. I'm not here to defend what other people think. My guess is, though, a person that would say Zelensky won't agree to a peace deal because he wants perpetual war, what they're really saying is he wants Putin and Russia wiped out. Like, It's not as if I don't think they're saying that Zelensky literally could have the manpower to end Russia and would be like, nah, dog, we're going to pull back and let the fights continue. When they say, I think what they're trying to say is Zelensky wants the whole enchilada. He wants NATO. He wants nuclear weapons stationed there. He wants fucking Putin ousted. He wants Russia to pay for everything. And because that's not possible, then he wants to keep fighting. I have no doubt that there is someone out there that literally believes that Volodymyr Zelensky wants war forever. He wants to die and go to Valhalla and continue to fighting in the afterlife. I don't agree with that, but sure, there are people that say that. Okay? I think there are many people in the United States, intel communities, an establishment community, and with NATO countries, that's what they want. They want to drag this out as long as possible because they see this as hemorrhaging Russia. And they're maybe not wrong. If their interest was Ukraine winning, then they would have sent way more. Hell, they may have even sent boots on the ground. But they didn't. It's almost like they were happy with the stalemate. I'm assuming Zelensky and Ukraine would have said, fuck yeah, we'll take more. Yes. And you're giving us permission to attack inside Russia? Great. The Russia Propaganda Party, says world-renowned GeoHound. It's surreal. It's so funny to me. All of the people that are saying the Russia Propaganda Party, every one of them would have said the exact same shit if they were told to during the Iraq War. Oh, you're against the Iraq War? You're a stooge of Saddam Hussein. I'm tired of the Saddam Hussein propaganda party. I'm so tired of it. I'm tired of the Muammar Gaddafi propaganda party. I'm tired of the Assad propaganda party. That's it. What is Putin propaganda for saying, fuck Putin, I have no love for him, I hope that Ukraine loses or wins immediately? I just don't think the United States should fund it. How's that Putin propaganda? You know, it was Russian propaganda, the entire P-tape story that a suspected Russian spy named Igor Dushenko fed to the Hillary team that then gave it to the FBI that used it to illegally spy on Trump's team. That was Russian propaganda. I don't see people, my guess is that world-renowned GeoHound didn't have a problem with that Russian propaganda that was bought into by almost every single Democrat. The Russia Propaganda Party. Do you think he criticized it once? Or do you think he bought right in and said, yep, P-tape, Trump, yep. What do you think? But Zelensky's a Chad, man. He showed Trump. He showed Vance. Vance and Trump are crying. They're whiners. How's that working out for him? I'll bet Zelensky's more likely to come crawling back to Trump and Vance than Vance is and Trump are to crawl back to him. Just a thought. And remember, all of the people that are screaming at you, oh, we have to do this for the Ukrainians. Ukraine is right now willing to accept anyone without a criminal background record between the ages of 18 and 60 to go fight in the front lines. I sincerely wish you the best going over. I hope you kick ass. From the bottom of my heart, I do. I hope that every single person that's a male between the ages of 18 and 60 in the United States and in European countries with Ukrainian flags in their bios goes to Ukraine, gets trained, gets weapons, and beats the fuck out of Russia and doesn't even get a scratch. From the bottom of my heart, I seriously mean that. Good luck. I do. I'll be like, you guys are bosses, man. You did it. You kicked ass. That's fucking fantastic. That's what I would say. Honest to God. Maybe you can't serve because something. Open your pocketbook. If the United States isn't sending money, you can. Do it. You're all capable. But the United States is obligated to stop strongmen. You could throw a dart and hit a country where there's strongmen doing crazy shit. We ally with them all the time. We're allied with al-Nusra and al-Qaeda in Syria. We're in a fucking NATO alliance with Turkey where we station nuclear weapons that the official U.S. narrative is that we can never leave Syria because if we do, our NATO ally that we are militaristically bound to defend will commit genocide against our ally, the Kurds. So are we honor bound because Turkey's a bunch of genocidal maniacs to fucking go to war with them? No, we're stationing nuclear weapons there. And God help you if you suggest, wait a minute, maybe we shouldn't be doing crazy shit in NATO like this with fucking people that we're calling genocidal maniacs that we're giving nuclear weapons to. Everyone's a tough guy when it comes to Ukrainians being fucking drugged from their families' homes to the front line. Boy, you're a tough guy with their lives, aren't you? How dare you not want that to occur? Fuck you, coward. Yes, I am a coward too, before you even say it. You're right, I didn't volunteer to serve in the military. Absolutely. I'm an out-of-shape piece of shit coward. Everyone that served is braver than me. I don't give a shit why you did it. If you did it for a paycheck, if you did it for the GI Bill, whatever. As long as you weren't there to intentionally sabotage the United States, good for you. For real. I'm not going to denigrate anyone's service. Won't do it. But you're not going over to that meat grinder, are you? Before you demand that other people do something, why don't you exhibit that you're willing to do it yourself? If you think my money should be sent to Ukraine to help Ukraine perpetuate a war where they're conscripting people and sending them to a meat grinder to die, before you make that claim, you better damn well make sure that you're sending all of your disposable income over there. But I'm only one person and I won't make a difference. Oh no! I saw the Ukrainian flags on social media. There are millions of you. So go do it. We know. You right now that's listening that believes this, you're the one good one. You're the one who actually would do it if all the others would, but because they won't, well. Hey, I beat Asmongold. Well, Trump and Vance should have just ate crow. Who cares if they felt disrespected? They should have kept their mouths shut. To what end? And then next time, too, when phase 2 of negotiations comes up? That's true, Casimir. Zelensky is a puppet. Now, the question that someone asked, there are reports that people like Susan Rice, leaders in Europe, etc., were privately meeting with Zelensky like, don't accept this mineral deal until you could personally talk to Trump. And then here's what you do. And maybe they suggested when you get in front of the cameras, if you make this case, then the propagandists in the United States media will be able to spin it to the American people. Because ultimately, and I don't even blame Zelensky for this, Zelensky understands that who he really needs to convince is the American people. If there's 90% popular support for continuing to send weapons and money to Ukraine, Trump's probably going to do it. Or he's going to become massively unpopular and then lose the midterms. That's the idea. Make your case to the American people. In other words, say what you have to behind closed doors to get in front of the cameras and then say, yeah, Trump's wrong, which is what Zelensky did. Now, was the reason because Zelensky's an arrogant, stupid prick? Was it because he was told by Western intelligence, by people in the West that he should do this? Is it because he's on coke? Probably a combination of all three. But that's what happened. JD wasn't overly aggro. JD did what I wish that we had had presidents my entire lifetime doing. stood up when being disrespected by another foreign leader that comes to the United States begging to be helped. And when he's begging for the U.S. government to help him, understand that the U.S. government doesn't have money. They don't have anything. They have what they've taken from us. That's what they have. So what Zelensky's really doing is demanding that the fucking labor and wealth of me, of you, of every other citizen in this country, that a portion of it be given to him. That's what he's doing. And thank God that we had someone willing to stand up and say, how fucking dare you? How dare you come in and act that entitled? That's the truth. Yes, I know the people that really despise what America stands for, that want fucking open borders, that hate white men and masculinity and straight people and Christianity and all that bullshit. Yeah, I know. You want leaders in America that constantly say, oh, there's nothing special about America and we don't care. America will do whatever you ask of us. We have to. Fuck that. Fuck you and your globalist wet dream. Maybe he said thank you at the very beginning of it. The point Vance was making is, you should be thanking us instead of publicly criticizing us and calling us out in front of the media. That's what you should be doing. If you had objections, you could have brought them up behind the scenes, but you didn't. Instead, you agreed to the deal and then waited until you were in front of the cameras and then decided to interrogate me and basically say that you and your boss's plan is shit. Again, now you understand that I just went through this whole thing, 44 minutes we're on, 44 minutes explaining. It's not literally that he's saying that you need to say thank you. It is that Vance is saying that you feel entitled. Yes, I know Zelensky has said thank you, and he has gone to places like X and said thank you. Saying thank you and then going in front of the press and saying, fuck you, JD, your plan's fucking stupid, doesn't show gratefulness. It shows a sense of entitlement. That's step one. Step two as to why this is a non-starter is because the plan of the United States and the Trump administration is, one, sign the mineral deal so there will be something that is beneficial to the American people. Second, to proceed with a ceasefire. Third, then negotiate long-term terms to try to make sure something like this doesn't happen again. Zelensky is publicly in front of the camera saying in a photo op to celebrate step one of this three-part plan, steps 2 and 3 won't work. And you're stupid for trying. That's what he's doing. Thanks so much, Thomas O'Brien, for the 20 gifted memberships. I make this point incredibly clear. Thank you, Lazy Eyes, for the $5 super chat, too. I really appreciate it. You make this point clear, and what does the left say? Right back to the same fucking talking points. Actually, Zelensky said thank you in the past. Right, but let me explain. What? Yeah, but he did say thank you in the past. He said thank you. So J.D. Vance is a child. He said thank you in the past. Hey, I just want to say to Captain, my captain, thank you, man. Captain, my captain, from the bottom of my heart, thank you for being here. Thank you so much for being here and helping support my channel. It really means a lot to me. Also, kept my captain. I think you're probably a fucking sack of shit that doesn't do anything productive for anyone in the world. I think you're probably a fucking coward. I think you're a weak man. I think you're probably someone that demands other things do things because you're a narcissist and you think that you're entitled to more than what they are. I think you're someone that judges other people for not doing what you yourself can't do. I think you're probably a piece of shit that thinks everything you do in life is acceptable, but when other people do the same thing as you, you criticize them and say that that's wrong. I think you're probably a coward that's unwilling to fucking debate your ideas because deep down, you know that you're not capable of defending them, so you have to rely on stupid fucking cliches like he said thank you. That's what I think. And before you think that I'm offending you, note that I already said thank you to you, right? I already said thank you. I said thank you to you, so don't get offended. You fucking piece of shit. You fucking loser. You entitled scumbag. I said thank you, right? I said thank you that one time, right? Just so we've cleared that up. Got it? Good. I'm glad we've all cleared that up. Hey, you're welcome, Captain, my captain. Same thing with Sitch. Oh, Vance was crying, blah, blah, blah. When I point out, like, you're wrong, actually, it was Zelensky that Vance was okay to do what he did. Sitch says, that doesn't disagree with what I said. That doesn't disagree with what I said. Right, what I'm saying is your framing of the situation is him crying. Now, you can't argue with what I said. Let's go real quick, because I only got a couple minutes. So let's go real quick here. And I only bring Sitch up because I actually like Sitch, and I feel this is indicative of the sort of rhetoric that's going on around his. Sitch says, Zelensky was there to sign the mineral deal. Vance starts crying about Zelensky giving the slightest pushback and not saying thank you enough. Trump called off the agreement, not Zelensky. So many people are either lying or hallucinating about this, trying to make it about Zelensky wanting to fight forever. Big cope. I put absolutely wrong. Trump and Vance were answering press questions. Real quick. It's clear that P.S. Sitch is blaming Vance and Trump. They're the ones that started pouting and blah, 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 crying. I said absolutely wrong. Trump and Vance were answering press questions. Zelensky jumped in to question Vance and imply Trump and his plan would fail. This was a conversation we had during negotiations behind closed doors. Vance correctly called out how disrespectful this was. If you can't see this, you're lying or hallucinating. And then Sitch says, what you said doesn't even contradict what I said. Well, yes, it contradicts your entire framing of it. You're blaming Vance and Trump, saying they act childishly and were crying about something, and therefore the collapse in negotiations is their fault. But he's like, well, technically what I just said and his thing don't contradict. Then he says, since you didn't actually contradict my original claim but said I was wrong, I'm not sure whether to put you down as lying or hallucinating. Maybe the third option of hurt feelings. Check out that cool little picture he put of J.D. Vance looking emo like he was crying. I said, your framing was that it was Vance's fault. Mine is that it was Zelensky's. You're being intentionally obtuse because you can't defend your framing. But fine, I'll play your game. You said Vance was crying. Show me on the video where. I didn't see tears. You're either lying or hallucinating. So what Sitch is doing here is he's playing this game where he's like, I didn't, you need to say what literally I said was wrong, just not my framing. Not my framing. You need to say literally what I said was wrong. I said, okay, if that's the game, you said he was crying. Show me the tears. You didn't read my post. And I said, yeah, I read it. You said Vance was crying. Admit you were wrong. Wow, your feelings are hurt to the point you're now actively troll lying rather than admit you misread my post, LOL. I see why you have a lot of sympathies with Vance. I say, I notice this is a non-answer. Initially, I didn't argue with the specific words your post had, but argued with the overall framing. You couldn't defend your framing, so I argued I couldn't, and so you argued I couldn't prove your post literally wrong. I can only prove the framing wrong. I then showed where your post was literally wrong. Now you can't defend it and resort to deflections. My feelings aren't, I put not shirt. My feelings are not hurt at all. Yours, on the other hand. Oops. That's the games that they play. Oh, so he'll say, yeah, you saying actually it was Zelensky that was disrespectful, started to interrogate Vance and imply that him and Trump's plan would fail. And Vance correctly said, hey, that's disrespectful. You could have brought this up behind closed doors. You're not even really saying thank you in this meeting. Seems you feel entitled. Now, Sitch can't defend his position, so he goes, technically both those things could be true. It's just the framing. Right, we're both generally outlining what happened in the sense that Trump and Vance answered a press question. Zelensky started to ask Vance questions. Vance responded back. But the framing is everything. For example, then if I was to say between my interactions of Sitch and me, or if I said this, if I said Zelensky, Trump and JD were being excellently articulate and answering this hostile, arrogant media person's question. And then Zelensky started pissing his pants, crying, pouting that, oh my God, it won't work. Please, you must do more. Because he's a coward who's just fucking whining and says that he wants more than more and always feels entitled. And Vance correctly stands up and says, hey, you're being disrespectful. This should have been brought up in closed door. Do you think for a second Sitch would say, yeah, nothing wrong with that statement? Yep. Oh, he would just argue against the framing of it. The framing is everything. Janice, thanks for the $5, says, they knew Zelensky would blow up like that. State-crafted intel. If he signed good, if it blows up, then we could wash our hands of Ukraine. Clean break. No, that's not what's happening. You think that Trump and Vance knew that? No. It's clear they were ready. Last question. You think they knew? You think Trump, why would he say last question? Why was he willing to end it? If they were just sitting there like, oh, we know Zelensky's going to blow up. The stupidity of these people. Rob tacitly admitted if I invaded his house, I should be able to take part of his garage as compromise. LOL. What a bunch of fucking idiots. What a bunch of idiots. Okay, then Russia shouldn't be allowed to keep anything. My captain, you're going to war, right? You're signing up, right? Because if the United States and Ukraine agree to even if Ukraine agrees to allowing any part of Ukraine, former Ukraine, to be part of Russia now, you will not abide by it, right? Because if you allowed that, then that would be like someone taking your house and then keeping part of your garage. So you're going to war, right, Captain, my captain? Right? That's what you're going to do, right? The selective, we must have justice, is such bullshit. The United States invaded Iraq. They kept rights to certain things there. They kept bases there. Does that mean that the rest of the world that allowed that admitted if your house gets invaded, people are allowed to keep your garage? Right. Yes, says Captain. Yes, don't give Russia shit. They invaded you, ding dong. There you have it. So Captain says that if Ukraine agrees to end this war by giving up parts of their country to Russia, he personally will go and attack, I assume, both Ukraine and Russia, right? You're going to fight. Do you see? You see the absurd. What do you think the chances this pussy is actually willing to go over there and fight? Nothing's stopping him right now. Head over. Right? You are aware that there is a long history of countries that invaded other places and were stronger, keeping certain things. Like that was kind of the entirety of the Roman Empire, of the British Empire, of pretty much every empire in history. You do understand that, right? You get that. All right, work's calling me. I got to get going. Thank you so much, everyone. Sorry about, I'm going to try next time you see me streaming at home, I'm going to try going through StreamYards, which I'm going to have to pay money for. So I do appreciate the donations. I think it's going to be like $50 a month. So I do appreciate it. But all right, we'll see you all. Thank you so much. I really appreciate each and every one of you. As always, have a good one.